Oops. Hi guys, really sorry for the delay. Was just fixing a couple of things. Can everyone make sure that they're audible? Just go ahead, open your mic, say a couple of words.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, perfectly audible.
Hello, hello, am I audible?
Hello, am I
Yes, yes,
audible?
audible, audible, audible,
Hello, am I audible?
audible,
Hello, am I audible?
audible.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, audible. Huh. We'll be beginning in a couple of minutes. Till then, settle down, relax. We'll also wait for a couple of subscribers to join. Oops. Hello. Hi. I sent another. All right. All right. Um, do you guys want a timer on your like on the screen? I think it would be really helpful if you can go ahead and have your
Yes.
own timer, but whatever. Cool then. This one works for you? Can you guys see it?
Yep, visible.
Stop drawing on it, please. Um. Okay, so wait. I'm streaming from this device too, so it'd be really helpful if you can just have your own. Because then it will be tad more difficult for me. So I highly advise you guys to have your own timer, please. I'll also have one running by my side. But because of a couple of errors, it's I think difficult to have one on the screen right now. Given that proposition opposition, both ready, comfortable.
Yes.
Cool. Hi everyone, I'm Gaurav. I'll be your chair for this round. Couple of housekeeping rules before we begin this debate. Given that this is an online debate, make sure to check for mics, mute whether you are not. Make sure to turn on your camera while you're speaking, and all of those other formalities. But also be extremely respectful and humble to your opponents. With that, first speaker proposition. Whenever you're ready.
Right, so am I audible?
Yep, perfectly audible.
All right, so I'd like to begin in three, two, and one. Greetings to one and all present here. I am Kahini Desai, the first speaker of the proposition team. And today I am here to debate for the motion that says the state deserves to keep certain secrets from the public. And when we talk about certain secrets, what are they? Certain secrets are classified governmental information. Now, morals. What are morals? Morals are basically the standards of duty for a person. And the duty of a state is toward the public, to serve for the welfare of the public. Now, when we talk about the welfare of the public, I'd like to explain my point with an example. The Taj incident of 2611 in India was a very devastating had a very devastating impact on all the citizens that were involved. Now, what happened was the rescue troops, the where the rescue troops were, and the positions and the methods of security were displayed by the media and into the public. Now, these terrorists were viewing the media, and that is how they could create the most devastating incident of history. Now, this is the impact of releasing certain secrets out into the public. When you when you release classified governmental information, when you release things that are not to be known by public, this is what happens, and it is not morally correct, because the duty of the state is for the welfare of the people, for the welfare of its public. Do you really think, ladies and gentlemen, that putting the national security at stake is morally correct? And where do morals come in here? When we talk about state deserving something, the deserving something is related to how it is morally correct to provide them with a right. And this right should be given to the state, because it is it is the state's duty to protect the people. And this and putting information aside, putting having certain secrets from the public is a part of the welfare for the society. Now, another point that I would like to give is, do you really think that major research organizations like CIA, FBI, all of them, if every single research of them was exposed to the public, do you really think that that would be of welfare? Do you really think that people's security would not be harmed? Ladies and gentlemen, I come here with only one point, and that is, the nation's security is the duty, the moral of the state, and that is why the state does deserve to keep certain secrets from the public. And thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Speaker, for that speech. You spoke for a total of 2 minutes 47 seconds. A minute given to the next speaker. All right, Speaker 1, opposition, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I will start in three, two, one. Greetings to the honorable adjudicators, members of the proposing team. Today I stand here on behalf of the opposition team to argue on the motion which states that state deserves the right to keep certain secrets from the public. Let me first clear out the motion and break down the motion into simpler terms, which a provision speaker one failed to do so. The term state refers to government or governing authority of a particular country or political entity. It encompasses the various branches of government that make and implement policies and manage the affairs of nation, examples military and intelligence agencies. The phrase certain secrets, the term certain implies that not all information should be kept secret, but rather there may be specific categories or instances where secrecy is deemed necessary or justifiable. Let me first clear me and my team stands for the publishing team. While we advocate for transparency, we do not disregard the legitimate need for secrecy in certain areas such as national security and sensitive diplomatic negotiations. However, we believe that secrecy should be the exception, not the rule, and that it should always be subject to checks and balances. I'll be presenting three principal arguments supporting me and my team stance. The first argument would be transparency as the bedrock of democracy. Second argument would be rise of abuse power. Third argument would be trust and credibility. Starting with the argument one, transparency as the bedrock of democracy. In a democratic society, transparency is a fundamental pillar. The people's right to know how the government operates, spends taxpayer money, and make decisions that impact their lives is a paramount. Democracy thrives on informed citizenry. When the state withholds information, it inhibits the ability of citizens to make informed decisions. Coming up with the argument two, risk of abuse power. History has given us various examples of government abusing secrecy to cover up misconduct and abuse of power. The Watergate scandal in the United States, which will be covered up in my coming up speech, is the true impact that the states happen when they use secrecy. Third argument would be trust and credibility. Maintaining the trust and credibility of the government is essential for a functioning democracy. Exercising secrecy erodes public trust. And the speaker who will give examples on this that have happened in the past. I will have to present the example of the Watergate scandal, which happened in the United States, as an example of government abuse of secrecy. Government officials tried to cover up illegal activities, including break-ins at the Democratic National Committee headquarters, leading of less of public trust and the eventual resignation of the president. This scandal is known as a prime illustration of how excessive state secrecy and abuse of that secrecy can undermine democracy and principles of accountability. Take the example of the right to information as a universal human right. In conclusion, while we recognize that there may be instances where the state must keep secrets to safeguard the nation, we firmly oppose the idea that it inherently deserves the right to withhold the information from the public. Excessive secrecy presents a significant risk to these principles and should be approached with caution. However, in fact, we shouldn't decide that the state deserves or do not deserves to keep certain secrets. In fact, we should understand the problem that challenge is defining what falls under those certain secrets and under what circumstances secrecy is warranted. By this, I would like to rest upon my case, but my stance stays unfazed. Thank you.
Thanks, speaker, for that speech. A common minute given to the next speaker.
Okay.
All right. Second speaker proposition whenever you're ready.
Yeah. I'll start in 3, 2, 1, go. Greetings to the adjudicator, to my worthy opponents, and my fellow teammates. I'm Speaker 2, side proposition, speaking strongly for the said motion. I would like to start off by deconstructing the motion, which has been molded by side opposition, unlike what they face. Now, the term certain secrets is not a separate term, sir. It is one term which means confidential information, had the research been done properly. Now, I would like to state my first point, which is protection of sources. Now, when we talk about absolute publication of information, there is also a source from which this information stems from. When we're talking about publicizing all and any information, we're also talking about publicizing these sources from where the information came from. So, what about the right to privacy and security of that particular institution, person, individual, organization, group, etc., etc.? To regulate this right of secrecy, mentioning the criteria of secrecy is one thing, and taking away the state's right to protect its very citizens is one thing. Now, another thing that I would like to say is sensitivity of diplomacy. Now, anybody that's ever been in a diplomatic discussion would know that certain organizations, certain discussions, when publicized prematurely, hinder not just global relations, but just the peace and peace of the entire environment around. All information is not subordinate to all people. Therefore, things that concern the said individual, group, or organization, only those people must be provided with that information to yours truly. Things that do not concern everybody should not be given to everybody. It is as simple as said. Now, a very easy example of this is RAW. Everybody knows what RAW is. It is the Indian Agency of Spies. We need spies. This is the 21st century. We are not living in the Neolithic era where we do not need secrecy. Of course, we need secrecy to execute. Execution, accuracy, and precision in governmental executives, legislatures, etc., etc. It requires a hierarchy. A hierarchy cannot be common to all people. If everything is given to everybody, there is going to be little to no execution on anything, be it state matters or just your home. Just like the mere fact that, when we're kids, it's a very simple example. When we're kids, our parents tell us that, okay, you'll know when you grow up. Why? Because we're not mature enough. We're not at that stage. The common man doesn't have time to physically meet and give a vote, let alone the common man knowing everything that's going on around the world. How is that going to work? When we talk about Watergate, we are talking about an individual that literally, quite literally, committed treason. Treason is exactly what we're talking about. You do not want to share information that you're not supposed to share with everybody. That is what happened at Watergate. It was a leakage of information which was not supposed to be leaked. Another thing that happens is riots. When everything is provided to everyone, be it, for example, these said certain secrets, it creates riots. There are enormous examples of these. Time and again, we've seen cultural riots, political riots, gender riots. When there were reservations, the fight for reservations in the Indian Constitution, when it was ongoing, people had an issue. People have an opinion about everything. And if there are so many opinions, there is going to be no conclusion. And no conclusion is exactly the fall of society. Thank you.
Thank you, speaker, for that speech. A common minute given to the next speaker. All right. Second speaker opposition, whenever you're ready.
A very good morning to the respected adjudicator and the House at large. My name is Avni, the second speaker from the opposition, and I strongly stand against the motion that the state deserves the right to keep certain secrets from the public. First and foremost, let us be clear that we're not arguing for absolute transparency, where the state is expected to reveal every piece of information, no matter how sensitive or classified. The key issue is whether the state deserves an inherent right to withhold information without any checks and balances. When the state can arbitrarily decide what to keep secret, it undermines the very essence of a democracy, eroding the trust between the government and its citizens. Furthermore, history has shown us the dangers of unchecked government secrecy. Through the 20th century, governments across the world have used the cloak of secrecy to justify actions that range from unethical to outright criminal. From the Watergate scandal in the United States, that, as explained by my first speaker, to the unauthorized surveillance programs in various countries. Take, for instance, the case of Edward Snowden, a former National Security Agency contractor who exposed mass surveillance programs that violated citizens' privacy rights. Snowden's revelations sparked a global debate about the balance between national security and individuals' liberty. Secrecy has often been a tool for abuse of power. By claiming an inherent right to secrecy, the state can easily shield itself from public scrutiny, paving the way for corruption, abuse of power, and lack of accountability. The idea that the state inherently deserves the right to keep secrets can lead to a slippery slope. When the state's right to secrecy is unquestioned, it becomes easier for the governments to overclassify information, making it difficult for citizens to even access the non sensitive information that should have been in the public domain in the first place. In conclusion, while we acknowledge the need for some level of government secrecy, we oppose the idea that the state deserves an inherent right to keep secrets from the public. A democratic society thrives when its government is transparent, accountable, and open to public inspection. It is through this transparency that we can safeguard the principles of justice, liberty, and democracy that are the foundation of any just society. In contrast, a more balanced approach can be achieved through proper oversight mechanisms such as independent judiciary, legislative branches, as well as independent media and whistleblower protections. These checks and balances ensure that the state's right to keep secrets is not absolute but subject to investigation, preventing abuse while safeguarding legitimate national interests. In the end, I would like to say, in the realm of governance, secrecy may seem like a shield, but in truth, it often becomes a sword that ultimately harms the very democracy that it was meant to protect. Thank you.
Thank you, speaker, for that speech. A common minute given to the next speaker. All right, third speaker proposition whenever you're ready. Third speaker proposition.
Yeah,
Got
I'll give myself a self-counting.
awesome.
Okay, I will start in 3, 2, 1, go. India's nuclear experiment that proved India's capability of being a superpower. But we all know that at first it was kept a secret. Why? Because if not, it would have never happened. Because the United States, the Soviet Union, did not want India to become a superpower. They would never let it happen if they knew about it. This clearly shows how certain secrets are necessary for the welfare of the state itself and the people itself. Now it is not that it wasn't declared or it wasn't out publicly afterwards. It was, but once the mission was successful, certain sensitive information and secrets should be out only when they hold no harm to the nation and the people of the nation. Moving on to a few rebuttals. The speaker one, he himself says that state refers to a country and the information as military information and other information. But he failed to justify why all this information should be in the hands of general public. Secondly, he himself contradicts by saying that there should be certain secrets, because that is exactly what we are saying. He at the end completely disregarded his own team's case by saying that there should be certain secrets kept out of the hands of public. That is our point. Thirdly, dear speaker, we never said that making the right to secret is making it a rule. We are just protecting the government's right. It is not necessary to hold secrets, but if needed, it should be a right that is given to the government. Fourthly, he says that abuse of power. So tell me, did you not vote the ruling government? Therefore, you are indirectly involved in the outcomes of it. And if you do not like the outcomes, there is always an option to change the ruling government. Nextly, he talks about public trust. But dear speaker, let me tell you that trust is exactly the reason we are proposing this motion, because keeping some secrets should be kept, because one mistake of the government when publicly out would hamper the trust of the public in the government's all decisions, all the future decisions. Even if they are right for them, they will not trust the government. And lack of reasoning makes this whole case hot air and nothing more. Moving on to speaker two. You never defined public. Let me define public. Public can be anything. Public of other countries, public of enemy countries, and anything. My next question to the speaker, upcoming speaker three, is that how do you justify revealing your state's secret to other states' public? How is this justified by you? Nextly, speaker two, she says that they are not arguing for absolute transparency. So tell me, who would set the criteria for what secret should be out and what not? You, me? Do we hold the power to do that? No, the government will decide, and that is exactly the right that they deserve and the right that we are proposing. Thirdly, dear speaker, taking a few cherry-picked example does not prove your point that the state does not deserve the right, because this is not match and the negatives do not eliminate the positives. Fourthly, she lives in a delusional utopian world where everything is perfect and all the information could be taken in a positive way. But that is not the case, because in the real life, in a real life, it is not that all the information will be taken positively. Moving on to my arguments, we can take the example of Osama bin Laden mission, where the United States hid information from the Pakistani government about the mission and about the whereabouts. Why? Because if not, Osama would still be alive. For the safety of mankind, for making the right decisions, and for the eradication of terrorism, whether morally right or not, the government deserves the right to keep certain secrets from the public. Next argument is that respect and freedom of opinion. Let's say that everything in the government discussions that happens is an open book. Okay, so government is a continuous process. Discussions happen every day, but decisions are taken sometimes only. Now, what matters to the public is the decisions and not the discussions. Let's take an example: a discussion on a law for a particular community is taking place. Now, if all the statements are out publicly, it would be a major harm and major threat that the person is facing, his family is facing, his relatives are facing, because of the statement that he made, which was not even a final decision. It was just a part of a discussion. This proves the point of my second speaker of protection of sources. And for all these very reasons, we believe that today the motion in front of the House must stand. Thank you.
Thank you, speaker, for that speech. A comment given to the last speaker from side off.
Can I start?
Whenever you're ready, ma'am. Just give me a countdown before you start.
All right, I'll start in 3, 2, 1. I wish if the US government had warned us, consulted the people before approving the making of an atomic bomb, not only Japan but all countries today would have been saved from the horror we face today. Yes, the state does not deserve the right to keep certain secrets from the public, because the history and present are full of examples of when we've allowed them to do so and they've failed us, broken our trust, and left us to deal with the consequences. The motion before the House today, ladies and gentlemen, is not whether or not the state should keep secrets from the public, whether they are allowed to or not. The debate is on moral grounds. That does the state really deserve the right of keeping secrets? And well, we feel that the state does not. In the past, when the government has kept secrets from the people, we've seen a rise in conspiracy theories. MH370, for example, the Malaysian airline that disappeared. Some say it was the Russians or the Americans or the Chinese behind this. If a state can hide the disappearance of 227 people, does it really deserve the right of keeping secrets from the public? Well, and if we do give them the power to hide certain secrets, it leads to abuse of power or corruption. Or as we've seen in Watergate, in Chernobyl, well, without Mark Felt, Watergate might have still been a secret, ladies and gentlemen. All of the above examples have led to negative consequences for individuals and society as a whole. Moving on to my rebuttals, I would like to deconstruct some of the points stated by side proposition. Speaker one said, and I quote, duty of state, it is the duty of state to serve for the welfare of public. Well, where did the welfare of public go when Soviet Union was late for the evacuation and concealed the severity of the Chernobyl disaster? Well, during the Taj attack, she said that methods of rescue were displayed by the media. I think that this is when you blame the media and not the state. Well, during censorship, you blame the state, but at the same time, you want an independent media, and when the independent media does something, you blame the state. It does not go hand in hand. Well, you talked about CIA and FBI and how they should not reveal their missions. Here, I feel it is all about when a piece of information comes out, when it is released after or before a mission or during a mission. Speakers talked about publicizing all information means revealing the source, India being a superpower, or the raw, and that we need secrecy to execute. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all of the speakers of side proposition have got the motion and the debate wrong entirely. In fact, everyone has misunderstood the motion. They've been proving that the state should be allowed to keep secrets. Well, that is not the motion. The motion states that the state deserves to be allowed to keep certain secrets. And not once did side proposition prove that the state deserves the right to keep certain secrets morally. And with that being said, the motion must fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker, for that speech. I'm really sorry I wasn't muted, so I really hope that wasn't really big of a distraction. If both the teams are comfortable with a couple of pointers and a couple of recommendations, that'd be really nice. So, would you guys mind if I go ahead and talk about this motion a little bit?
You can, we don't mind.
We don't mind. Go ahead.
First thing first, I think the idea of a government itself was really, really scrutinized. Opposition talked about democracy to a long extent, but what is the purpose of government? Why, matlab, what goes between the public and the government? The reason that a government is enacted in the very first place, the kind of obligations, etc., etc. So I think a couple of more minutes were needed to be devoted to this very specific thing, as to the social base, the very very basic idea of the social contract, that people give away their right, etc., etc. I think the major clash in this debate was on the note of where people are better off. That is where the welfare of people are better off. I don't buy a proposition when they say uh, that people can also be people of different country. I feel like this is a principle debate, and this principle debate only exceeds to the state and to the jurisdiction of the state, that is to the nation and the people of the state itself. Given that, where are people better off? I think when opposition tried to run the idea of privacy, again it was to a certain extent at surface level, because all they continuously told about accountability and stuff like that, but accountability always relies on this check mechanism. Sure, I can hold you accountable and I can hold the government accountable, but what is the change then? The change most likely looks like nothing is going to happen and they're still going to be in power, or another government just replaces them and that government does the very same thing. So in that idea, this whole privacy and this whole accountability is not really not really that fruitful. Proposition did not really counter it and did not really open it to a such an extent, but just a basic idea that you need to go into the depths and the realms of the arguments that the opponents are trying to run. Given that proposition did talk about a lot of different ideas, One of them is the confidentiality of information itself, that if we release XYZ information, it could result in um, something bad happening for the public. So this whole idea could be streamlined way easier, and this can you can also talk a little bit about the tendency of people and how it results in chaos and how the herd mentality activates, and all of these ideas would like further extrapolate and further make your arguments a little bit more robust. In that idea, I feel a lot of evidences were in this motion, and even though the evidences were on point, the debate was kind of amiss as to is it even morally legitimate or not, because it was still in the shape of the welfare of the people. But then again, is the welfare of the people the only thing the government strives for? So for that, you need to ensure couple of boundaries and a couple of checkpoints as to what a government's basic job is, and does that job require them to sustain or like to keep information from the people and to keep it secret, and why is it deserving in the very first place? So um, with that, I do feel that debate was pretty nice. Really good arguments on the idea of transparency, trust, and right to information, and yeah, and the precedents. So, Speaker 2 Op talked about the precedents of such a thing, that the kind of repercussions society is likely going to face in the future if we allow the government to like, don't to keep secrets. I think you can extend on this, and you could have made precedents a really big argument in this motion. For Prop specifically, I think Prop did a great job. It's really hard to argue this motion from Prop. The only thing you can possibly tell is that eventually it will result in not so good things happening to the public, which is pretty apt, and I think which was pretty much fulfilled by proposition at every point.
I I actually had a point. I missed it out. Like I just wanted to say it
Yeah,
कि
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
अच्छे काम के लिए बोला हुआ झूठ झूठ नहीं होता.
Yeah, I mean, this is what this debate was, but
Yeah,
on a grander scale. Um,
yeah,
I think you were right to call out that who is it, like who decides it then. I think
yeah.
for that, Ob needed to counter it on the basis of democracy itself. That what is the true meaning of democracy? It's people making their own choices, even if they are very bad choices, even if they're really good choices. It's still the people's choices, because then they'll be accountable for it. So in that idea, you needed to have a greater sense of what the government meant, what democracy meant, and what is the first most pillar of democracy. Is the accountability more important than welfare? All of these ideas needed to be like contemplated. But still, I do feel that great debate. Um, I think off speaker 3 had the best speech, is the best speaker in my opinion. But I still think proposition won this debate by a really tiny margin. Even though it was harder to argue from side prop, I feel that op could have done a better job in like extrapolating all of these ideas. Even though they had a lot of arguments, most of them were surface level and did not really go to the extent of things. I hope that clarifies things. And if you have any doubt, you can obviously ask them right now. Um, Seeing none, I think this is the end of the debate. I thank all of you guys to first of all, really thank you for showing up to this debate and having this debate. And I hope you enjoyed and it was a good experience. I really did like catching you, so
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
I wish you in your future prospects.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Thank
Bye bye,
you. Bye.
guys. Bye bye.